Hi, this is Maggie from Design Code Debug Repeat. If you're a beginning programmer, a beginning game programmer, a beginning data analyst, a programming teacher, or if you just find this content interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be posting lessons, tips, and cool programming stuff regularly. This video is based on an error that I see frequently in my beginning programming classes, and I have an example here in Python. Now, suppose you are asked to write a program which takes two numbers from the user and just prints a message or tests somehow and does something if both of those numbers meet a certain condition. So in this case, if both numbers that are entered are over the threshold of 100, then it should print the message both numbers are greater than the threshold. But here's the error code. So this is the sort of code that I see some people writing sometimes. And colloquially, like the way we would speak, this code makes sense. If number 1 and number 2 are greater than the threshold, then we want to do this thing, print both numbers are greater than the threshold. Now, our threshold is 100. Let's look at this program running. So let's try two numbers that are below the threshold, and it doesn't do anything, which is correct. Let's try the first number above the threshold. It doesn't do anything, which is correct. Let's try both numbers above the threshold. It prints the message, correct. At this point, you're probably thinking I'm crazy, but here's the kicker. The first number below the threshold, the second number above the threshold, and it prints both numbers are greater than the threshold, and that clearly is not true. So what is going on and how do we fix it? Okay, so the first thing we need to understand what's going on is that in many programming languages, Python included, any non-zero value is considered true. So if I try to convert 0 to a bool, I get false. But if I convert 1 or 10, like in this example, to a bool, I get true. Even a negative number is true. Okay, so that's our first piece of evidence, our first clue that we can convert an integer to a bool, and 0 is false, but any other integer is true. And in fact, we can write if and then some integer. So let's look what we call our numbers, num1. So I can write if num1 print that was true, and it prints it. Num1 is a non-zero integer, so it evaluates to true. Okay, so number 2, how is an AND evaluated in Python? So we've got, in a proper AND, you have an expression that evaluates to a Boolean result on the left, and an expression that evaluates to a Boolean result on the right. So on the left, the expression that evaluates to a Boolean result is a simple integer, whatever number the user entered for num1. And on the right, the expression is more like the expression that we intended to write, num2 greater than threshold. Okay, so how is that going to get evaluated? Well, short-circuiting is actually used here. So with short-circuiting, it's helpful to look at the truth table for the AND operator. So let's dig one of those up. Okay, so here's the truth table for AND, and this is from my book Problem Solving with Python, but the truth table for AND is the same anywhere, no matter where you find it. And how do we read a truth table? Well, we look at all of the possible combinations of the operands to the expression. So with an AND operator, we have two possible operands, so all the possible combinations are true and true, true and false, false and true, false and false. And the truth table shows us how an AND evaluates if each of the operands evaluates to the values in the table. So the only time an AND comes out to true is if both of the operands or expressions on either side of the AND are true. And in all other circumstances, it comes out to false. So the way short-circuiting works is we have a guaranteed outcome of false if the first operand is false. And I think I have an illustration of that, and is split over 2 pages. Oh well, okay. So we can see if it's false, no matter what the next operand is, right? It's going to be false, because if either one is false or if both are false, the outcome is false. If the first operand's true, then we've got to look at the second operand. So what does an AND actually evaluate to in Python? Well, if the first operand is false, it evaluates to the first operand. And if the first operand is true, then it evaluates to the second operand. So if the first operand is false, the whole thing is going to be false. So it evaluates to the first operand. If the first operand is true, then it's going to evaluate to whatever the second operand is. Okay, so getting back to this expression. If this is any non-zero number, then this is true. That means that the whole expression is going to have to evaluate to whatever this evaluates to, num2 greater than threshold. So we go back to our testing. When we said 10, that was true. Num1 evaluated to true, so we've got true and, so the whole thing evaluates to num2 greater than threshold, 10 greater than 100, that's false. So that whole thing evaluated to false and it didn't print the message. Again, 101 evaluates to true. It doesn't matter if it evaluates to more than threshold or not. We're not testing that. We're just testing whether it's 0 or not, and it's not. So that's true, but again, we've got a 10. 10 is not greater than threshold, so the whole thing evaluates to false. Now in the next one, again, we've got true. 101 is true. So the whole thing's going to evaluate to 101 greater than threshold, and it is. So it evaluates to true this time, and it prints the message. Now we've got 10, which is true. So the whole thing's going to evaluate to num2 greater than threshold. 101 greater than threshold is true, so the whole thing evaluates to true, and we get the message, even though that isn't what we intended with the code. Now an OR is similar. Let's bring those truth tables back up. But an OR evaluates to true if either or both of the operands are true. So with an OR, the short circuiting happens if the first operand is true, because we know the whole expression is going to be true. So with an OR, it evaluates to the first operand if it's true, and it evaluates to the second operand if the first operand is false. But it's very similar to AND in the way that it works. Okay, so this is the bad code. How do we fix it? We have to have a complete expression on each side of the AND. And the expression that we want over here isn't num1, because that's essentially just testing num1 not equal to 0. What we want is this to print if both numbers are greater than the threshold. So we want the same expression basically over here, except comparing num1. So num1 greater than threshold and num2 greater than threshold. Let's comment this one out. Let's save. And let's test on our 4 tests again. Okay, so 10 and 10, we should not get a message. Our next one was 101 and 10, and we should not get a message. Our next one was 101 and 101, and we should get a message. Very good. And our last one is 10 and 101. And in the bad code, we got a message, but we should not have. And we don't. So this is the correct way to write a compound expression like this. I have a bonus question for you that you can answer in the comments. In our final test case, where we entered 10 and 101, what if we had entered 0 instead of the 10 in our broken code? Would the entire program have appeared to operate correctly, or would we still have gotten the wrong output? Answer in the comments below. And be sure to give an explanation for your answer. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you like this sort of content, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions for me, if there's anything that I didn't cover here that you're interested in, or if you have any follow-up questions about this video, please just put a comment below and I will get back to you. Take care.